Is this really cool motif featuring wheels that are connected to one another. You can make it grow as wide or tall as you want. On this video, I'm going to teach you how to do the clockwork motif. I'm going to be using a 4mm hook and some acrylic yarn size 4. Okay, so we're going to start with our base ring. So for our base ring, you want to chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we want to close this off by doing a slip stitch into the first chain that you made. And now we've got your base ring there. Now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, which counts as a double crochet. And you want to do 1 double crochet into the ring. Now we're going to chain 3 and do a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet that you just made. So you go back onto the top of that stitch, grab the yarn, and close it off. And that's going to give you a picot stitch. So this little ball basically that comes out of the stitch. And now we're going to do 2 double crochets into the ring. So here is 1 and 2. And that's basically the repeat. Let's do it again together. We chain 3. It starts at the chain 3, by the way. And now we want to do a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet you just made for a picot stitch. Now you want to do 2 double crochets into the ring. So 1 and 2. And this is what we want to do all the way around, a picot stitch and then 2 double crochets in between. You want a total of 12 picot stitches. So I'm going to do it one more time with you, and then I'm going to do it off camera. Chain 3, slip stitch on top of the last double crochet you just made, and then 2 double crochets into the ring. This is my third picot. I need a total of 12, so I'm going to do that 9 more times, and I'll see you when I'm done. Okay, so I just did my 12th picot stitch. And now to finish off the little motif, we're going to do a slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 that you started with. So you gotta, if this got kind of tight for you, you can kind of pull it. The chain 3 is here for me. So I'm gonna go into the top of the chain 3. Or sorry, the third chain. There we go. And now you can go ahead and cut off your yarn, fasten that off. Okay, so now we're going to work on the second motif, and we're actually going to join it as we work it. So I've already thread the ends through for this just so it doesn't get messy, but for the second motif, we're going to go back and do our base ring. So you want to do a slip knot, and then we are going to chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we're going to join with a slip stitch at the first chain that you made to close off the ring. And now we're going to start by doing a chain 3. 1, 2, 3, which counts as a double crochet. And now we're going to do 1 double crochet into the ring. Now we're going to chain 2. And this is where we're going to connect it to one of the picots of the previous motif. So I'm going to pull up a loop so I don't lose my yarn, remove my hook, and I also want to make sure that I'm at the front of the work for the motif. So I'm going to pick any picot stitch, insert my hook into it, and I'll back onto my working loop here, making sure that is also facing forward, and I'm going to pull it through. Now we're going to chain 1. And this chain 1 plus the 2 chains from before counts as what you would do for your picot stitch, the chain 3. So now we're just going to complete the picot stitch by doing a slip stitch on top of the last double crochet that you made. So we go on top of the double crochet, grab the yarn, and pull through to close. And now it's connected at the one spot. We're going to do that again. So now we want to do 2 double crochets into the ring. So here is 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 2. And now we're going to connect it to the next picot stitch of the previous motif. So this one here. We're going to grab our yarn, go through into the picot. Here you actually do have to kind of twist it and go through the back. Grab the yarn and pull through. Now they're connected. We're going to chain 1 and then complete our picot stitch by doing a slip stitch on top of the last double crochet that you made. And now you see that they're connected into 2 points. That's all you want. Now you're going to continue with this motif like normal. So we're going to do 2 double crochets, picot stitch, 2 double crochets, picot stitch. Let me do it with you a couple times. That's my 2 double crochets, chain 3, and then slip stitch into the last double crochet for a picot. Do that again, 2 double crochets. That's 1 and 2. Then 3 chains, and then a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet. And that's basically my 4th picot stitch of this motif. I've got 1, 2. These are connected to the previous motif, and then 2, 4. And you want to do a total of 12. So do that all the way around. I'll see you when you're done. Okay, I just finished my 12th picot stitch of this second motif. And now to finish this off, we're just going to do a slip stitch into the center of the ring. So you do a slip stitch and then cut off a long enough yarn that you can thread it through. And that is our second motif. You want a total of 6 of them. And we're going to be connecting them at certain points so that you can create that like 6 of them. So 3 and 3. And so basically here, for example, this next motif, I'm going to continue doing this line this way. So these are the 2 picots that I would want to do, that I would want to go into, right? Because when I lay it flat, it's going to be connected. Let me see. This is my first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 into the 7th and the 8th picot. This is where I'm going to connect my next one. And then I'm going to do the same for the bottom, but I'm also going to connect them to the top motifs. So essentially at the points here, here, and here. Once you have the motifs laid flat, you'll see where you need to connect them. So I'm not going to show you that on video, but essentially you repeat the 3rd motif connected here. I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll see you when I'm done that, and then I'll show you how to do the bottom. So now I joined the 3rd motif to we're going to call this the 1st row, and the bottom the 2nd row. So I just joined the 3rd motif of the 1st row to the 2nd one using the same instructions as before. Now we're going to do our 1st motif of the 2nd row, and we're going to attach it to this one, the 1st motif of the 1st row. So you want to do exactly the same. We're going to do a chain 8 for our base ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then we want to do a slip stitch into the 1st chain to close off the ring. Now we're going to chain 3 and then do a double crochet into the ring. And now we're going to join basically at the 4th and 5th picot of the motif. So the 1st picot is the one that's connected. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these 2. I'm going to go into the 4th. I've noticed that if my yarn is behind me, it's easier to join. So rather than being here, it's better if it's behind. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. I'm going to insert my hook into the picot. And now I'm going to just pull close. Pull through to close. Now we're going to chain 1. And we're going to finish that picot stitch by doing a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet that you just made. So on top of the double crochet, you insert your hook and do a slip stitch. It's going to feel a little weird because you're handling, all things, but now that you did that, we're going to do 2 double crochets into your current ring. So that's 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 2 and then go into the 5th picot, so the next picot of this motif. Again, the yarn needs to be kind of below the hook. Insert your hook into the picot and then pull through to close. Now we're going to chain 1, finish off that picot stitch by doing a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet that you were just in, or that you just made, and then complete that picot. So now, as you can see, you have the connection between the first motif of the second row and the first motif of the first row. And now you're just going to complete this motif like normal. We're going to do 2 double crochets into the ring and then a picot stitch. That's 1 and 2. Now a picot, chain 3, and then a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet. And you want a total of 12 picot stitches. So do that all the way around and I'll see you when you're done. So I just finished the first motif of the second row. And now I'm just going to verbalize what you want to do because it's quite simple. The next motif, you're going to start it, right? Like you've done every single one before. And you're going to connect it to this first motif of the second row at these 2 picots. The way that you know which picots you want to go into is because there's one in between this joining and this joining. So you know you skip this one and then go into these 2. However, you are going to connect these, make 1 picot, and then connect at these 2 points. And then make 1 picot. Actually, sorry, this one you're just going to continue. Once you've connected here and here, you're just going to continue like normal. And then this last one, you're going to do the same. You're going to have 1 picot in between that's not connected. And then you're going to connect at these points and these points. And then continue the motif like normal. So these 2 just have 1 more joining. And the way that you know where to go is there's going to be 1 picot not joined. And then you're going to connect at here. Same over here, 1 picot. You're going to have 1 picot here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. And then you're going to join over there and over here. That's going to give you the 6 motifs together. I'll do that and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I just did my 9th picot stitch and the 2 double crochets right after. So we'll count together. This is my first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I'm about to do my 10th, but I want to connect it to the second motif of the first row. And how we know we're going to connect it is, so these 2 are connected. Then you want 1 empty picot. So this one we're not going to touch. And then you want to connect at these 2. So the 10th picot of my current motif is going to go into this one. The 11th picot of my current motif is going to go into this one. So let's do the 10th one. I'm going to start by chaining 2 and then inserting my hook into the picot that I got to go into. So basically skipping 2 after the connected ones, going into that 3rd one with my hook, and now pulling through to close, chaining 1, and now finishing my picot by doing a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet that I just made. Then I want to do 2 double crochets into the ring. Here's 1 and 2. And now I'm about to work my 11th picot of this current motif. So I'm going to chain 2. Find that next picot of the motif above. So this one here. We're going to insert our hook into it. And now we can go ahead and pull the yarn through. Then you're going to chain 1. And now we want to do a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet that you just made for a picot. So that is my 11th picot stitch of the current motif. And as you can see, I've connected it in both the points that I needed to. Connected here, empty picot, and then connected here. So now we're going to finish off our current motif by doing 2 double crochets into the ring. That's 1 and 2, and our final picot stitch. So chain 3 and then do the slip stitch into the double crochet you just made, and we're going to finish off by doing a slip stitch into the ring. So into the ring, just a slip stitch. And now you can go ahead and cut off the yarn. I also sometimes do a chain 1 to kind of secure it. So you can do that. Then cut off the yarn. And now we're going to move on to the very last one. So you'll notice that you have a bunch of ends to thread afterwards, but we'll deal with it later. So now we're going to do our very last one, and we're going to follow a very similar idea as this one. So we want to connect at, let me see, these 2 points. So you're going to have one picot stitch on either side left alone, and then you're going to go into the other two. So into these two and into these two. So let me start the very last one. I'm going to do my chain 8. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're going to do a slip stitch into the first chain. And we're going to start with that chain 3, which counts as a double crochet, and then a double crochet into the ring. Now we're going to do our first picot, but we're going to connect it to the second motif of the second row. So we're going to connect it at this point here, skipping 1 after the 2 connected to the right, and then going into the next one. So I'm going to chain 2, go into that picot stitch with my hook, and now grab the yarn. You know what? I always confuse this. The yarn needs to be behind me here. So let me try that again. And there we go. And then a chain 1. And now we're going to do a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet you just made to complete the picot stitch. Okay. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets into the ring. There's 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 2, go into the next picot stitch of the previous motif. So this one here. Insert my hook into it. Let me see. Yarn behind me. Insert the hook and then grab the yarn and pull through. And then a chain 1. And now I'll close this off by doing my slip stitch into the top of the double crochet. So now I've connected it to this motif, and now I want to go all the way around. Same idea as this one. I'm going to stop when I'm about to do my 10th picot, and I'm going to connect it here. So I'm going to do this all the way around and show you how you do this part. Okay, I just did my 9th picot and the 2 double crochets afterwards. So now for my 10th picot, I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2. And I'm going to be connecting it to the 3rd motif of the first row at this picot, essentially skipping 2 after the 2 connected ones, skip 1 and 2, and then into this one, go in with my hook, pulling through to close, and then doing a chain 1. Now finishing off this picot stitch by doing a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet. And now I can do 2 double crochets into the ring. Here is 1 and 2. Then my picot stitch by doing a chain 2, 1 and 2. And I'm going to find that next picot that I want to connect to, which is right above me here. So inserting my hook into it. Insert your hook into the picot. Grab the yarn and pull through to close, chain 1, and then do a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet you just made. And now all we're missing is the next 2 double crochets and picot stitch. So let's do that together. Here's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, chain 3, do a slip stitch into the top of the double crochet you just made. And that's the last picot of this motif. And now we can do a slip stitch into the center of the ring. And that chain 1 if you want to secure it. And now we can go ahead and cut off our yarn. Okay, this was a mission actually, guys. So I'm really happy to be done. But now we can go ahead and cut off the yarn, thread the ends through, and you're all done. Okay, this one is just so stunning. I've seen a lot of this before where like the motifs are connected and I thought they were sewn on, but it's really cool to see that you can do this as you go. I was envisioning maybe even like a bag with this design. If you make a few more and then add it together to make it wider, and maybe adding sides to it. There's a lot you can do with this, or you can just make like a really, really large piece, put it on top of a flat surface. Very, very cool. The cool thing too is that you can grow it to either side however much you want. Like you can make it as wide as you want or as tall as you want, just following the motif, like the 1 motif design and instructions, and then you attach it wherever you need, making sure that you have that 1 picot stitch kind of in between. Super cool. Hey, while you're at it, why don't you just subscribe to my channel? Just do it. Just do it.